Here is what to know about the court ruling striking down Trump's tariffs. A federal appeals. A federal appeals court says the President Donald Trump overstepped his authority when he imposed sweeping import duties. Donald Trump, by the way, suffered the biggest defeat yet to his tariff policies on Friday. As a federal appeals court ruled, by the way, he had overstepped his presidential powers when he enacted punitive financial measures against almost every country in the world. And in a 7 to 4 ruling, by the way, the Washington D.C. court says that while U.S. law bestows significant authority on the president to undertake a number of actions in response to a declared national emergency, and none of those, by the way, actions allow for the imposition, by the way, imposition of tariffs or taxes. It means by the way the ultimate ruling on the legality of Trump's tariffs, which were famously based on spurious, by the way, economic science and rocked the global economy when he announced them in April, and will probably, by the way, be made by the US Supreme Court, which tariffs did the court known down. The decision. The decision centers on the tariffs Trump introduced, by the way, on the 2nd of April on what he called Liberation Day. And the tariff set, by the way, a 10% baseline on virtually all of the US trading partners and the so-called reciprocal tariffs on countries, and they argued have unfairly treated by the US Lesotho, a country of 2.3 million people in southern Africa, and was hit, by the way, was hit with a 50% tariff. And while Trump also announced a tariff, by the way, of 10% on a group of uninhabited islands populated by penguins, and this ruling, by the way, voided all those tariffs, and the judges finding the president's measures are unbounded in scope, amount, and the duration. By the way, they say that tariffs assert an expensive authority that is beyond the express limitations of the law his administration used to pass them. And tariffs, by the way, typically need to be approved by Congress. But Trump claimed he has the right to impose tariffs on trading partners under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, IEEPA, which in some circumstances grants the president authority to regulate or prohibit international transactions during a national emergency, and the court ruled. It seems, by the way, unlikely that Congress intended and in enacting IEEPA to depart from its past practice and grant the president unlimited authority to impose tariffs. And Trump, by the way, Trump invoked the same law in February to impose tariffs on Canada and Mexico and China, and claiming that the flow of undocumented immigrants and drugs across the U.S. and the border, by the way, amounted to a national emergency, and that the three countries needed to do more to stop it. And the question here will be, are the tariffs gone now? Is the answer will be no. No, actually. The court, by the way, largely upheld a May decision by a federal trade court in New York, which ruled Trump's tariffs were illegal, and but Friday's ruling tossed out a part of that ruling, which would strike down the tariffs immediately. And the court, by the way, says the ruling wouldn't take effect until 14th of October, and that allows Trump, by the way, administration time to appeal to the majority conservative U.S. Supreme Court, which will have the ultimate say on whether Trump has the legal right as president to upend by the way U.S. trade policy. And what does this mean? What does this mean for Trump's trade agenda. By the way, the government has argues that if Trump's tariffs are struck down, or it might have to refund some of the import taxes that it has collected, and which would deliver a financial blow to the US Treasury. And revenue from tariffs totaled, by the way, $159 billion by July, and more than doubled and what it was at the same point last year. And the Justice Department warned in a legal filing this month that revoking the tariffs could mean financial ruin and for the United States. And the ruling, by the way, could also put Trump on shaky ground in trying to impose tariffs going forward. And the president, by the way, does have alternative laws for imposing import tariffs, but they would limit the speed and severity with which he could act in its decision in May. And the trade court says that. The trade court said, by the way, Trump has more limited power to impose tariffs to address trade deficits under another statute. And the Trade, by the way, Act of 1974, but that law restricts tariffs to 15% and to just 150 days on the countries with which the United States runs big trade deficits. How has Trump responded? By the way, he is not happy. Trump not happy, by the way, and Trump spent Friday's evening reposting dozens of social media posts which were critical of the court's decision in a post on his own social media site. And Trump, by the way, claimed, as he tends to do when judges rule against him, that the decision, by the way, was made by a highly partisan appeals court. And if this tariffs, by the way, ever went away, it would be a total disaster for the country. And Trump wrote, he added that if allowed to stand, this decision, by the way, would literally destroy the United States of America. And Trump, by the way, claimed tariffs are the best tool to help our workers despite their costs being typically and borne by everyday Americans, and the tariffs have triggered economic and political uncertainty across the world and stoked fears of rising inflation across the planet. Decades of progress towards, by the way, a healthier planet is being threatened by a global resistance in the form of far-right politicians and the government, by the way, fossil fuel influence and cooperations, empowered, by the way, by the political wings to roll back their green pledges. And the Guardian doesn't bow to political and pressure, and we don't take advertising from fossil fuel companies. Our work, by the way, is funded by readers just like you. And for our annual environment support, by the way, campaign, and we are asking 40,000 readers to back our journalism with a one-off or recurring amount. Thank you so much. Have a nice time and great day. Thank you so much. Goodbye. Thank you.